And starting now. And you're good.
Great. Good afternoon and greetings from Georgia Tech and from Atlanta and from my office here. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to share a little bit of information about where we are in the semester, as I typically do, and then kind of give some thoughts as we conclude yet another academic year. One of the first things I want to talk about is kind of to try and help you understand what's in front of students in the month of April, okay? Because that's exactly where we are. We're halfway through April. But April for students is filled with many responsibilities, many thoughts, and many emotions, okay? April is the bridge month to the now versus the future as we wrap things up and move to summer and beyond. So in April, there's kind of a long list of things that students have to accomplish. They've had to accomplish securing their housing for either summer or fall or life after tech. They are having to secure their courses either for summer or fall. And they're in the process of doing that now in terms of choosing classes and deciding if they're going to enroll in classes. And I want to say one thing about that. There are some students who I truly believe and highly recommend that they take a break and that they not register for classes, okay? Their instinct might be to want to do that, but if they really have had an exhausting year or 2 years and need just some time to focus on something else and to not be engaged in academic work, then I strongly recommend that you support that decision, you encourage that decision. I sat with a young woman today who is in her second year, finishing her second year, has been going steady since the day that she arrived here, taking many classes, involved in all kinds of activities, undergraduate research and stuff, and she's hit a wall. And the reason she has hit a wall is because she's exhausted, okay? And now it's trying to get her to the finish line this semester. And I strongly encourage her to take a break this summer and to focus on herself and stuff. So assess what's going on with your student and see if they might actually benefit from just some downtime, okay? Sometimes an internship, a job, something like that, that's just not academic work is also a very viable option for them in the summertime. They also have to start packing up their belongings. Right? They have to kind of gather things and start, putting in closure to moving on. And that's a very emotional time for seniors, graduating students. It is because, they'll realize they're not coming back. For first-year students, they're amazed that the first year's already over. And for those in between, it's kind of in that middle space of just, again, another academic year. But every time a year ends, it's filled at the end with kind of emotion and many, many thoughts, okay? They're also trying to spend time with others, goes hand in hand with the closure or end of a semester in trying to just spend some additional downtime, social time, before everyone goes in their own direction and leaves, whether it's forever in terms of graduating or just even leaves for the semester. Graduating seniors, depending on their experience, it's a very emotional time to just say goodbye to your friends, to your fraternity brothers, sorority sisters, whoever it is, and realize that this is the final goodbye. They're also the reality of grades, okay? We are 1 week away from classes ending. Today is 1 week away, and then we will move into finals, okay? There are very few opportunities left to kind of really increase the grade other than maybe the final. And sometimes that final is worth 30–40%. And so the pressure of the final is real. But the reality of grades really hits home around this time of the semester as students begin to worry more about that. And then the implications for those reality of grades in terms of implications for scholarships and financial burden that may come with losing a scholarship or the reduction of a scholarship. So this is all playing out in April as we try to wrap up the semester. And I just want you as family members to kind of understand the many complexities of things that are happening and the kinds of things that your students are trying to navigate in this final days and weeks of the term. So, but April 25th is our final instruction day. That's a week from today. And then we will have a reading day. And then we will move into final exams in late April and beginning of May. Next slide, please. So I do want to say that April's also a time for us at Georgia Tech and for the Division of Student Wellbeing, Student Engagement and Wellbeing to say thank you to all of the students that have engaged in different activities and different leadership roles and stuff. And so last week, every year we have like a week of celebration and appreciation, and sometimes it extends into 2 weeks. But last week, in early April, we had Graduate Student Appreciation Week. It was a whole week of different activities that was planned. Last Monday evening, I attended the Up with White and Gold, which is an event that really acknowledges student leadership roles and student organizations that have done really good work. On the 11th, I attended the Fraternal Excellence Award that focuses on our Greek accomplishments for the academic year. On the 12th, I attended Lavender Graduation, which is run out of the LGBTQI Resource Center, just honoring all of the students that are graduating that are affiliated with the center. On the 13th, I attended Student Government Banquet, which is really a time to thank our student government leaders and for all the hard work and all the kind of student life issues that they've worked on. Tomorrow is the Student Honors Celebration that will actually honor and celebrate student academic achievements. So it's a time of appreciation. It's a time of gratitude and thanking students and student organizations for their commitment, dedication in making Georgia Tech a terrific place and an even better place for future generations of students. Next slide, please. And now we'll move into kind of what's next. And so phase 1 registration, we're in it now. And students are deciding if they're going to take summer school. And also they also are registering for fall classes. But if they're going to focus on summer, they'll have a few different options for summer. There's 2 short-term, there's a Maymester, and then there's a long-term summer. So there's like 4 different options that students can choose from. All of them begin on the 15th of May. So they have a little bit of a break, and then we start on the 15th. The Maymester is May 15th to June 2nd. It's an accelerated kind of short-term, very short-term semester that they can enroll in. Okay. The last day of classes for the early short term is June 16th. So we go from May 15th, spend a month, May 15th to June 16th. And the first day of classes for the late short term, which begins middle and goes to the end in August, would start on June 21st. And then the last day of classes for the long term is the July 25th. So you can see students can, be here for a little bit if they want and then go home or go someplace else, or they can go home first and then come back. For the late short term, there's a number of different options that we offer students. Okay. The other thing I would say is that there's a nice list of online classes that are being offered this summer that students can be anywhere and still register for classes at Georgia Tech, and they should look at those in terms of the course selection that's out there now. Next slide, please. So tips for the end of the semester and returning home. So here's what I'll say is, our first instinct sometimes as parents is to just want to hone in on the most obvious, and that's kind of how'd you do, how were your grades, right? And what I'm going to recommend is that you don't start there first, okay? Because if the semester didn't go so well, or if they fell short in their mind, and falling short sometimes is earning the B rather than the A. I don't mean failing a class, but if it's not gone exactly as they thought, then I think what you have are students that potentially can, feel really disappointed and afraid that they're going to disappoint you. So what I would suggest that you do is to not start with grades, okay? How is your semester? And what do you feel good about? Whatever question you come up with, you really know your student, and I would say just hone in on some questions, but don't go to grades first. Now, they may go to grades first because they may feel like that's where they feel you really want to start, but you're not asking. So if they choose to do that, that's fine. But I'm just saying that I would recommend that you not go there, right? After they get home, I would stay away from things like you're sleeping too much, okay? I'm going to tell you that when students get to the end of a semester like this, an end of an academic year, they're exhausted, okay? I had a young man in my office yesterday, and he said, I'm probably going to do an internship, but I just need to go home. And I said, okay. And he said, I need to do two things, Dean Stein, when I go home. And I said, what's that? He said, I need to sleep in my own bed back at home, and I need to eat my mama's food. And I think that's kind of what it comes down to. I want to be home. I want to get a good night's sleep in my bed, and I'd like to have my, home cooking. And so I think, like, again, give them time. Give them a few days to just kind of reset and catch up on sleep, because the finals weeks they're a tough week. That's a tough week for students, and they might be really burning the candle in terms of staying up and studying and stuff. I would also avoid things like you've gained weight, you've lost weight. Don't hone in, because I think if that's happened, they themselves potentially are very sensitive to that point. And again, we don't want to focus on that. All right. Just kind of don't go there first. And avoid the questions of, did you work hard enough this semester? Okay. I can tell you that it is the rare Georgia Tech student that has not worked hard in a semester. This place requires you to work hard, and most students absolutely do. Okay, and so maybe a statement like, I'm sure you worked hard this semester is probably the better statement to make than asking it in terms of a form of a question. So these are the kinds of things. So what I would say is that as you move into discussions and kind of reunions with your students, is to think about the kinds of things that you can do in terms of greeting them home and having those first kinds of conversations with them. So next slide, please. And that's what I had today. It's a short one, but I'm open to any questions that you have. I'm happy to entertain questions or give some advice, if you'd like, on anything that you feel you want to talk about. This is our last talk this year, so it's our final one. And I appreciate those of you that have logged on, either in person or later have watched the tapes. I hope they've been helpful to you, and I've enjoyed spending some time. But does anybody have a question or something they want to talk about?
So we're going to wait. I just posted in the chat. Feel free to ask any questions. This is Lacey that you have. This is a great time to talk directly to Dean Stein and ask any questions. I know he covered a lot of helpful information in there, but perhaps you have other questions that you'd like to ask. We'll wait just a little bit here. No, it's always asking the first question, and then once we get the first question, they all start coming in. So, so one of the questions we get in the summer, you know, is kind of some of the things that Dean Stein talked about, is kind of what are they doing this summer, having the downtime. Our first year students typically will come home. Our upper class students may have an internship or co-op. So if there's any questions about kind of navigating that experience, feel free to ask those questions. Oh, this one's about housing.
Yeah.
So is there any update on the housing situation for current students?
There is no major update, but what I want to reassure you is that every day housing is learning about students' plans. So some students who have signed up for housing may at this point be notifying housing that they are not going to be living in housing for whatever reason. They're taking a semester off. I sign off on leave of absence, and and I'm signing off daily on a number of students who, for whatever reason, have decided to take a leave of absence. Okay, so rooms are opening up, spaces are opening up, and they're just working their way through the wait list. And that's what we will do all between now and all summer. And so it's a matter of just every once in a while trying to get an update from housing as to where they fall on that wait list. Okay, and so no major update, but I do want to reassure you that things are not just remaining stagnant. They are shifting and moving as students make decisions. Some students, may have found a great place off campus and now have decided to move off, and so they're asking to be released out of the housing option on campus. So lots of reasons why students might shift out of the room that they may have selected a few weeks ago. Good question.
Yeah. So our senior who's on our call, I'm going to have her turn her camera on, and she's going to ask you a question, Dean Stein. So this is pause. I'm going to get her on the screen. There she is.
Hi. I have a quick question. As graduation is approaching, what would you suggest is like the best tips on like going into the real world, starting your full-time job, and just like that transition that I know all of us are really looking forward, but at the same time, we're really, really nervous as to like just coming an adult, I think.
Yeah. Great question. Great question. So what I want to reassure you that you are an adult. You have been an adult. Okay, you're moving into an adult world, but you are an adult. So what I would say is that Georgia Tech has prepared you well for life after tech, right? And the biggest change, it's like coming from high school to college and then graduating college and moving into the world of work or graduate school someplace else or whatever. What is that about? That's about change. So really what it is trying to get in the right mindset in terms of navigating change. Okay, new things, new people, new environment, new expectations, it's all unknown. And that's when we find ourselves getting the most anxious, the most worried, and we question the most. Am I ready for this? What is this going to be like? Will I be received? And so I think it's really, how do I best prepare for change? And I think the way you best prepare for change, even at your young age, is to realize that you have successfully navigated it even in your life to date. Just making the transition from high school to college, making the transition from home to here, and all of the things that you dealt with as a college student has helped you understand that you can navigate change. It doesn't mean it goes absolutely smoothly and there's no, few little bumps along the way. That's part of life. But, what you have to realize is, okay, I've done this, right? I can do it. Yeah, I feel a little anxious about it, but basically to try and have the attitude that I've got this, right? I'm okay, I can do it, right? And to just kind of really, I would say, try to acknowledge what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and not try to push it away, but lean into it and figure out, why am I feeling this way? Okay. What is your plan? What are you doing after Georgia Tech?
So I'll be moving to New York in July. So I have I'm working up there.
So you're working, and are you from New York?
No, I'm from Costa Rica, so I'm an international student. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a major shift. Now, have you been to New York?
I have.
Okay.
It's gonna be overwhelming, but I'm excited. So it's good changes.
Yes. I mean, but you see, you already know, like, okay, it's a big city. It's a very active city and stuff, but it's an exciting city. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of possibilities and stuff. Do you have a place to live there?
No, but my sister is also moving, so I'll be moving in with my sister.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
Yeah. See, so you're putting the pieces in place. And, I think it'll be an exciting time. But I think that's just really what you have to do, is to reassure yourself, to focus on the fact that you've navigated change in the past, and you can do this, right? And then don't go in with the mindset that it's all going to be terrific. Okay. I mean, and don't go in with the mindset that it's all going to be terrible or all going to be overwhelming. It's going to be something in the middle, right? But to just understand that, I can navigate this. I can do it. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure. I think there was a second question about housing as to the cutoff.
Yes, there was.
Yeah,
is there a cutoff date for the wait list, to get out of the wait list, I guess?
No, the cutoff will go through the whole summer, right up until the opening of school. But also, just every year, right before the semester, fall term is going to begin, and right as we begin, there are a number of reasons why a student may not make it back or may choose to not come back. And so we do find that there are openings that occur right before the semester is going to begin. Now that gets tricky because students may have already found a place off campus, and then we're contacting them to say, would you like to live on and stuff. But this will stay with us in terms of an evolving situation right through to the opening of the term.
So one of the questions we usually get at winter break, but Dean Stein will remind you about what happens during the summer too, is the curfew and the late night challenges with, the 3 a.m. the 3 a.m. walking in. So if you can kind of remind parents what you talk about at Facet about that when they're coming back.
Sure. I think there's a difference between, students living their lives here and students living at home with you. Okay. And, it's a transition for both of you, them and you. And, I think some students, I think, potentially go home and just want to continue to live their life as if they're at college, right? They're staying up very late. They may want to go out and then come home very late. And I think what I would say is that, usually it's just a matter of trying to sit down and have a conversation about, what are the rules in terms of being home and, what your expectations are. Because there is a difference between living home and then the effect that their behavior has on others in the house, in terms of either, people waiting for them to come home to make sure they're okay, or coming in late and disrupting others who are trying to sleep in the house and stuff. So, just try to have that conversation with them, pretty quickly after they arrive back, as to, let's agree to this summer. Okay, as opposed to waiting for the first time something happens, and then you're probably having a conversation in a less than opportune time, and also with a different tone to the conversation. So, yeah.
Great. I think that's always helpful for our families to hear. that kind of negotiation has to happen. And then, preparing for those students who are returning, and you always share this at Facet 2, kind of what is your plan for your next year at Georgia Tech? What goals do you have for this upcoming year? What are you excited about? You always share that with our Facet families for their first year coming in, but also for families that are returning, that's important to have those conversations too. What are you excited about this coming year?
Yeah. I think it's very important that students, and I just said this in one of the talks that I gave last week at a celebration, is that if we don't take the time to reflect on things at the end of an experience or an involvement in something, it's just that. It's just an event. It's something that we just went through. But if we can take the time to reflect on something and ask some questions like, what did I learn from this? What did I enjoy about this? Where was the challenge for me in this? How would I do, if anything, different if I had to redo it? Those kinds of questions just help students kind of get a better sense of their experience and themselves. And so as we end an academic year, whether it's their first year or their second or their last, it's kind of, and the last one's always kind of, it's a great kind of reflection of looking over the 4 or 5 years at Georgia Tech and say, what do I think about this? Am I feeling good about this experience as I leave it? How have I changed as a person during my time here? What have I learned? How have I grown? And for first year students, it's kind of, okay, how did that first year go? What did you really enjoy about it? Where was the challenge for you in that first year? And if you could reset and go back and do it over, is there anything you would do differently? And depending on the answer to that question, it kind of sets up the second year in terms of what they might do differently and try. So some students say, the first year I was so focused on doing well academically that I really didn't engage in co-curricular kinds of activities and stuff. And because of that, I really didn't meet a lot of people. I basically spent more time alone than I did with others. Okay? But in the second year, they want to change that. They realize that they do want to meet more people. And one way of meeting people is to getting involved. So, again, it's trying to, in the second year, balance between the work they have to do academically and spending time engaged in the experience of Georgia Tech and meeting other people that will, actually potentially offer them some friendships and stuff. So, I think those are the kinds of things that a student should look at each year and kind of assess and then figure out, what am I going to do? What do I want to do in my third year, my fourth year? And so let me ask you a question. I'm going to go back to our graduating senior. Have you changed since you've come to Georgia Tech?
I changed major in my first year, actually.
Okay.
Just in your growth. How have
What
you
about you as a
Oh.
person? Yes.
I think a lot personally. I've always been very, very into math and stuff. I feel like when I came to Georgia Tech, I explored so many things outside of just STEM. So I was able to get involved in a lot of extracurricular activities and also get into more artsy environments as well. So I think that's when people don't realize that you're not only coming to a technological school, there's so many things outside of that. So I was able to get involved in other things outside of the things I always used to see myself in. So those definitely are things that I see myself as really good change. And I think more personally, I am more confident with just being going to other people, asking for help, and just approaching others. I feel like you have a lot of resources, but sometimes you're afraid to ask for help. So I feel like as I became a senior, I'm no longer afraid of asking for help. I'm always just seeking to others and reaching out to people and always trying to make connections, because at the end of the day, those connections are the ones that are going to take you further. So I think that I'm no longer afraid of asking for help or reaching out to others. Versus my freshman year, I was actually very, very like afraid of all of that change and and asking for help and just communicating with people outside of like my comfort zone. But I feel like I've definitely changed, and now I like approaching to everyone and just asking questions.
That's great. See, when I hear that, I think success. We've done our job. Like if we have helped you reach that point and kind of, reach those milestones for yourself, that Georgia Tech should feel good about that, because that's what we want. We want to kind of move you to a place where you now can kind of feel good and accomplished and have learned things, learned a lot of things in classes, but also learn things about yourself and learn things in your experiences here. And asking for help is an important life lesson. And Georgia Tech students come into Georgia Tech not really happy when they have to ask for help. It's not something that they feel good about, and they typically do. So it's not an easy thing for Georgia Tech students to do, but it's a very, very important thing for them to learn. And I also think that it helps them to be on the other side of the coin when they are actually the one giving the help to others. So great. That's terrific to hear. So
she was one of our seniors who joined us last night for our senior dinner that we had with our parent assistant leaders. Paz has been with us for 3 years, and we are going to miss her.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the one thing that, those families that have teachers understand this, but the one thing that we all have to get used to is that we spend our time with our students, and we get to know some of them more than others, but we spend our time, but part of what we know from the beginning is that they leave us. That's the point, is to graduate and to move ahead and move on in life and stuff. And it's not easy sometimes, because we get close to them and they get close to us, and we have joint partnerships in terms of the things that we're accomplishing and stuff. And so it is a part of what we do, and what we have to prepare ourselves for in terms of them moving into the world. But that was the whole purpose of coming, is to kind of launch a career and launch the future. So
I just shared a picture of us last night at dinner, kind of as Dean Stein was sharing his pictures. This is Paz and several of her peers, and myself and Tyler, celebrating our seniors last night who are going off to do wonderful things. One of our students is going to teach English in Korea. One of our students is going to be here in Atlanta with the company here. One's going to DC to work for a company there. Paz is going to New York. Another person's going to Silicon Valley. So we are just so excited for our seniors.
very good.
Any other questions that anyone has for Dean Stein before we wrap up? Great. Thank you so much for joining us for this Tech Talk with Dean Stein. This is our last one of the year. And stay tuned for communications from our office this summer, as well as next fall, and getting ready for Family Weekend. If you've not saved the date, it's October 20th through the 22nd. And we hope you have a great end of the year and a great summer, and we'll see you next year. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.